In today's video, Anthony Pompliano just mentioned that Bitcoin is replacing bonds as the new benchmark for global finance. And if that's true, we're entering a whole new era of wealth. This breakdown is from Anthony Pompliano and Paulina Pompliano's powerful take on Bitcoin, Wall Street, and what people still don't understand about where we're headed in the global financial macro market. So we're going to break down the most game-changing predictions from Pomp, and I'll be jumping in with, of course, my own 2 Satoshis, so stay tuned.
Bitcoin is booming. Are you cashing in or missing out? At Drip2 BTC, we're rewriting the rules of Bitcoin investing. Earn up to 30% ROI on your deposits, unlock incredible Bitcoin discounts, and transform credit into up to 3,000% APR growth. No hassle, just real results. Don't wait, your future is one deposit away. Drip2BTC.com. Invest smart today.
Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Property, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. It's amazing to me, like, no matter how much you learn about a subject, there's always more to learn, and nothing more so than with Bitcoin. So you're looking at an asset class that was created 15 years ago, and there's still so much to understand fundamentally about it. And there's this statement that we'll get to in here from Pomp that just kind of clicked with me about updating your worldview, and how Bitcoin is so new and so groundbreaking in its conception that it really does truly disrupt the way we viewed the world forever and ever, amen, prior to its inception. So it takes a lot of research and a big slice of humble pie, I think, for people to actually understand it and then embrace it, because it literally disrupts everything we've ever known prior about money. Like, it's so groundbreaking, so revolutionary, and yet so simple that I don't think people really understand it or can really embrace it the way that it's going to get to in the future as this market adoption continues. So I got about 5-minute clip from Pomp. We'll break it down in different pieces. So let's go with the start here.
Bitcoin. Now we're back to real reality. Bitcoin is doing very well, mainly because Bitcoin is very sensitive to global liquidity, and global liquidity has been expanding. Not only do we see China panic and cut interest rates and print a little bit of money, 1 trillion yuan, but also we see in the United States that there are a number of things that the U.S. continues to inch closer to that would be increasing global liquidity. On top of that, countries all around the world. So as M2 money supply, global liquidity is all increasing, Bitcoin nicely follows. And so I think that Bitcoin will continue to grind higher here. Second thing that Bitcoin's got is Bitcoin is watching all these public companies keep buying it. They are assaulting. Bitcoiners are assaulting Wall Street. How many public companies do we need buying Bitcoin for there to be buying pressure on Bitcoin? Obviously, we're getting closer and closer to that. Third thing that Bitcoin's got going for it is that Bitcoin in particular is now transcending itself into becoming the benchmark rate. I've been saying this for a long time.
So we'll pause there. So what he's saying basically is that the stark reminder that Bitcoin isn't just a hedge, it is a liquidity sensor. When central banks pump money, Bitcoin feels it and reacts immediately. So we see this now, as I showed in some other clips. I don't have that up right now. I didn't think about it, but global M2, and like he mentioned with China injecting 1 trillion yuan. So we've already seen global banks, and even Trump made a statement that Jerome Powell is always late because other banks around the world are already injecting liquidity. And again, that's the Raoul Powell everything code. There is no other way for this system to continue to limp on. They have to inject liquidity and debase the currencies globally, because it's all built on debt. It's all just leverage on top of leverage on top of leverage. This chart from Visual Capitalists shows basically governments around the world have accumulated 97 trillion in total, a 40% increase since 2019. I think this chart is updated as of 2023. So the main TLDR is that the entire economy is a debt-based system with very little assets supporting that, and everything else is leverage on top of that. So the only way for this to continue to move forward is to add more debt on top of this existing system and debase the currency and your essential buying power. But let's go into that risk-free rate about bonds that Pomp was talking about and break that down.
Long time, everyone used to say their quote-unquote risk-free rate is bonds. That is going to go away. The quote-unquote risk-free rate is going to become Bitcoin. And it is for the younger generation already. Those younger people are going to grow older. The older people love you, but you're going to be gone. And so then you're going to have the new benchmark rate is going to be Bitcoin. And if that is the benchmark rate, then guess what? If you can't beat it, you got to buy it. If you can't beat it, you got to buy it. There are a lot of people who can't beat Bitcoin. And so guess what? They're buying it. It is the new benchmark rate. And therefore, I think that is a 20, 30 year kind of time horizon that we're going to watch this kind of ascend to. All of finance will use Bitcoin as that benchmark rate. Naturally, that asset's going to keep going up.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like.
And that for me is again something that I never thought about. we digest all this Bitcoin information and hear about nation states and governments and regulation, and then we just sink. The number goes up immediately. And that'll be a video that I put out later on from Willy Woo. But these kinds of things take time because remember, this old system has been in place for so long that it's so hard for us to just kind of make a U-turn and pivot into something new as a new global monetary system. And then as he's mentioning in here, the benchmark rate for bonds, basically that means where you could park your capital and guarantee that you would at least break even or not lose too much against the debasement or inflation of currency. So people would park their capital, extra capital, in bonds. So a benchmark bond is a bond that provides a standard against which the performance of other bonds can be measured. So it's kind of the definitive yardstick that we measure everything else against. Government bonds are almost always used as the benchmark bonds, such as on the run in U.S. Treasuries. The benchmark bond is a security which the price of other bonds react to. Bond investors, fund managers use the benchmark bond as a yardstick for measuring bond performance and to understand what rate of return to determine in excess of benchmark return. So if basically what we've seen before, that other countries are no longer purchasing our bonds, and even the companies inside the U.S. and banks are not putting money into bonds, it's like, okay, then where is that new benchmark rate that Pomp is referring to? And that is going to be and is becoming slowly Bitcoin. So like he mentioned, though, that's like a 2030 time horizon. And this goes into the Michael Saylor thesis of 13 million a coin, I think by 2045. So that's a 20 years from now. So this is going to be a slow glacial attrition, but it is still a large glacier monsoon tidal wave change that's coming. But again, the main thing for me is that you can't just disrupt, like Mark Yusko said, since the 1200s. You're talking 800 years of finance and history built on top of centralized ledgers and originally gold that has been usurped within the last 50 years. But all those people that were in control, that's centuries, of control and centralized authority and obfuscating things behind the scenes. They don't want to be out in the limelight. They don't want everyone to see the playbook they're running, which is the public ledger of Bitcoin. But it's coming whether you like it or not, because it's already proven that it can withstand the volatility and the attacks and everything else. And now regulation is coming across the board in every country. So yeah, it's just mind blowing to me that no matter how much research and stuff I've done and how much you look into this, you kind of overlook the simple fundamentals of how big a change this is and why there is so much resistance to it.
The Bitcoin industry is becoming more dominant. I think
because Bitcoiners were right. Not just because they bought Bitcoin, but I think it's a very important point. You and I talked about this the other day. To understand Bitcoin, you have to look at the world through a lens that is very different than the lens that was the accurate perspective of the world 30 years ago. And so the reason why it is so controversial is there are some people who are left in the old world. They're looking through their binoculars, but their binoculars ain't showing them how the world looks today. Instead, there's a whole new group of people. It's like a new version of the binoculars came out. They put the goggles on, and when they look through it, they see with clarity. But the people looking through the old perspective, they are wishing for a world that no longer exists. The new generation of people who understand Bitcoin, they are looking through a lens that accurately understands how the world operates today. And so that is the intelligence test of financial markets in this day and age. Do you believe in Bitcoin or do you not? If you do not, that's all I need to know, because it tells me that you have not updated your worldview yet. But if you go and you talk to the Bitcoiners, people are like, oh, the Bitcoiners are insane. They have all these crazy views, like they don't want to eat high carb, high sugar type foods. You're like, what does that have to do with Bitcoin? It's a whole worldview. It's a way of looking at what's happening around you, looking at society, looking at all this stuff. The idea.
And again, that's that worldview I was talking about in the initial intro. It's that people are clinging to the way things used to be, and it's just so hard to see that fundamental shift, which is why the old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The older we get, the more calcified, dogmatic our ideologies, mindset, principles, beliefs, habits, all this stuff becomes. We just get solidified. That's kind of why Warren Buffett said it's rat poison and stuff like that, right? So you can't see how things are shifting. And if you go back, this is a perfect example of showing the S-curve adoption of technology. So all of these, and like this one's fascinating for me because I actually, again, living out here in Cambodia and now in Thailand, refrigerators being introduced, what is this, in the 1940s, 30, where is this, 1920s? So even out here, it's still quite common for them to use ice chests quite a bit. And putting stuff in a refrigerator, they have them, but it's just stuff they kind of put in and it goes there to die. Like you forget about it and they don't actually take it out or look at it or use it or eat it or whatever the case may be. So if you were to tell a person like this, way back in the 1920s or 30s, to be like, hey, get rid of your ice chests, refrigerators are coming. They'd be like, no, it's perfectly fine, I don't need to. But obviously, if you live in the Western world, you know, refrigerators are a standard, a staple. And you can see that with everything else. So I bring that analogy up because Bitcoin is doing that now with finances, things that are much more ingrained into our lifestyle, so to speak. So if you look at any of these adoptions, like I can see this because growing up in the 80s, 90s, and now 2000s, seeing this change, like I can remember actual telephone books. I can remember driving cross country using an actual atlas/real map. Now these things, telephone books and maps, are a thing of the past. You know, they belong in a damn antique store somewhere. And if you were to tell somebody that within 10 years, you won't have to use a map to drive across country, they'd be like, wait, what are you talking about? Like that was just in the 90s. I remember quote unquote MapQuest, where you would have to search something and then you print out the directions turn by turn and take that with you. So it's like, you know, kind of a hybrid between the maps. But I'm saying all that to show you that all these different things, it's all the same. The way that adoption comes is this S-curve adoption model, specifically with tech, and Bitcoin is just tech and finance blended together, is that you always have the old mental model, like Pomp said, and then people that just do not want to update that framework. They just are stuck in the way that things were because that's how it existed their entire life. And it's just very hard to understand what this new thing is and how it integrates and quote unquote replaces and kills the old thing. But make no mistake, eventually the old thing finds itself into a graveyard and dies, unless, again, like I mentioned with the refrigerator, you're out in a rural place. But with Bitcoin, because it's built on the internet, cell phone, social media, literally it is out in these rural places. Like living out here, unless you're maybe the Amish, but in all these rural places, even though they may have kind of shack style homes made literally from trees and debris around the area, they do have a cell phone. They do have access to the internet. There is electricity and internet running out here. That means they are able to access the Bitcoin network and buy Bitcoin. So yeah, the main TLDR of this video is that, yeah, you have to update your mental model. And if you're still living in the past and unaware of how transformative this thing is and is going to be, yeah, you're just not bullish enough. Like we have not seen the adoption that's actually coming to get us into the normie over the flywheel of the S-curve adoption model with, like, I think 50-60%. Once it becomes 50-60% of global population penetration, then it just takes off after that. So that's why you see this line kind of vertical, like color TVs vertical, cell phones, all these things, social media, damn near straight line, the tablet, almost straight line. So Bitcoin will by 2030 be much more vertical as well, because it's only, you know, 15 years old roughly. So let me know what you guys think about that. You have people still in the naysayer camp. Have you really wrapped your head around how transformative this thing actually is and where it's going from here? And for every Satoshi you don't stack now, it's like Michael Saylor said, that could cost you tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in the future, literally within the next 20 years only. That's crazy. All right, smash that HBO Special Hub brother out. Like, subscribe, comment down below. And until next time, lift daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.